It goes without saying that I love the JRPG genre, but nothing quite beats the retro feel of the classic games of old. JRPGs today are clocking in hundreds of hours, so in this video I want to go through some retro and retro-inspired JRPGs that have reasonable trophy lists for us trophy hunters. And whilst I do love Final Fantasy, I've spoke about it non-stop on this channel, so I want to highlight some other titles today. So let's get into it. I want to kick things off with I Am Setsuna, the game I just finished actually. This game is the first title released by Tokyo RPG Factory, a subsidiary of Square Enix, specifically formed to develop titles that are heavily retro-inspired. Taking a lot of inspiration from many of their previous projects, this game is definitely a mixed bag. There are a lot of things I enjoyed about this game. First of all, the soundtrack is beautiful. There are so many great pieces of music throughout. The story is interesting, right up until the end, but I'm still not sure how I feel about the ending. With a pretty memorable cast of characters, except for the last guy, I had a good time with this group. The art style is presented well, and I enjoyed the combat for the most part. I love turn-based, but this does have some extra mechanics. You have a momentum mode, which is triggered by pressing square every time you attack, adding extra damage and effects. And this adds another layer called Fluxation. This is where I was confused throughout most of the game. Fluxes are the best way to get stronger, and it makes grinding out levels redundant. Unless you're grinding Fluxes properly, you will not be strong enough to defeat the final boss for one of the last trophies. The game is very easy apart from this. I even did all of the side content and the secret boss, which was easy too. So it came as a bit of a shock to me in the difficulty spike for sure. I didn't realise this until so late on, which made my playthrough around 6 hours longer than it needed to be, forcing me to go and grind a specific critical build for my main character. So if you do play it, do some research on the Flux build, because the game doesn't like to tell you twice. And still with all that extra grinding, I managed to get this platinum in 31 hours. Next is Legend of Dragoon, a PlayStation classic that I only played for the first time on PS5. And dude, this game is so cool. The only reason I started playing this one is because the first release on PS5 was full of bugs, but they've been patched out now, so it's time to go and revisit this banger. This JRPG has great music and a story that I personally loved instantly. It reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy VII in its art style and design. The attack functions in this game is a system that involves pressing X or circle at the correct moment to chain attacks. This is called an addition and will be the main form of attacking. As you go further into the game and level up, more additions are unlocked, with some dealing more damage and others generating more SP. Some of the longer combos can be a little tricky to pull off, and I definitely had to practice some. At certain points in battle, you can choose to turn yourself into a Dragoon. When you are in this form, your stats will increase and you'll have a new arsenal of attacks to perform. The Dragoon menu is a simplified form of the normal battle menu, only allowing D-attack and D-magic. When choosing to transform a single Dragoon or multiple, be careful to keep one character available to heal at all times. If your party consists of only attackers and you have no healers, your party can potentially be eliminated in the late game. It's just something to be mindful of when using this mode. There are also submissibles here, so I do recommend using a trophy guide and not a walkthrough, just to avoid any trouble there. Legend of Dragoon is a great JRPG for sure, and a cool platinum for your collection. Is it too early to be calling PS2 retro? I don't think so. And Dark Cloud is one of my favourite games of all time. Developed by Level 5, my favourite studio, this game holds so many good memories. From playing the demo disc to getting halfway through the game like 5 times as a kid, all the way up until 2018 when I completed this game finally as a grown man. Now this is a dungeon crawling RPG with randomised level layouts. You progress through each level and unlock Atla, using the main character's special stone, the Atlamillion. The opening cutscenes are dope, and the shaft of destruction of the post-apocalyptic world was set to restore. The Atla you gather from the dungeons are used to rebuild that world back to its former state. You power up your weapons instead of gaining levels. Your weapons can break, so be careful, but finding the right stones will allow you to upgrade and evolve these weapons, which is a really fun mechanic. Also, each dungeon has a secret back entrance that can be unlocked if you get lucky, and the enemy on your floor drops the special dungeon specific key. If you manage to get inside one of these back floors, the enemies are twice as strong, but in turn give you double weapon XP, and you also find lots of rare gems in these, so make the most of each one that you can find. You get a bunch of allies and rebuild a bunch of different places, and I just had a really good time with everything this game has to offer. There is an annoying fishing trophy, but apart from that this game is super easy and really fun too. Dark Chronicle, or Dark Cloud 2 as it's known everywhere else, is an even bigger, better game with lots of improvements, with a much more brutal platinum trophy too. If you like dungeon crawling and city building JRPGs, then the Dark Cloud series is for you. Chained Echoes is a story-driven JRPG where a group of heroes travel around the vast continent of Volantis to bring an end to the war between its 3 kingdoms. It's presented as a 16-bit SNES-style RPG set in a fantasy world where dragons are as common as piloted mechanical suits. One thing that is great about Chained Echoes are no missable trophies, but honestly just kick back, have fun and enjoy the story. You can help to work on your reward board as you reach each area, but you unlock some armor to make it significantly easier. This game is a true throwback and it looks great. The soundtrack is catchy and the attention to detail is very appreciated here. Pixel art is crisp and modern and the mechanics are bang up to date. Switching between characters is easy, text speeds are fast, and movement is fluid and pacey. These are all the quality of life improvements we take for granted these days, but I will always personally appreciate. The most exciting part of Chained Echoes is its combat. The stats restore after each battle, allowing you to have constant access to the skills you have, and this means that you get to go all out in each fight. This doesn't make it an easy mode though. Each enemy can present unique challenges in their own right, but it's definitely nice to know that you don't have to worry about a boss around the corner and having no TP. Great game, and go check it out for sure. Wild Arms 2 is the lesser known sequel to Wild Arms 1, not really helped by its initial release skipping Europe originally. Regardless of that, Wild Arms 2 not only improved on the graphics, but also improved and added on to many of the mechanics seen in the first game, all while debuting many things that would be later referenced in later Wild Arms games. Wild Arms is unique in that it is set in a world resembling the Wild West with steampunk influences, which is pretty unusual for a JRPG, but it does make for a really compelling location. The battles are turn-based and there are also quite a few puzzles, with a fun story that I enjoyed too. The most important thing to note is using lucky cards on all of the bosses. This doubles your XP and money, and you can gain an unlimited amount of these by stealing from an enemy, unlocked later on in Chapter 4. This is where you gain most of your XP, fighting bosses. Now the game is a little bit on the easier side, so you shouldn't have to worry about it with most fights, and because of the lucky card mechanic, you also shouldn't have to worry about fighting the regular mobs outside of the monster collector trophy, which requires 200 enemies in the bestiary. When it comes to finding these, I recommend a guide if you miss any, but you can definitely search them out for yourself. So yeah, play through this great story, have fun with the optional bosses at the end, and you'll have a great new platinum trophy. What more can you ask for? Live Alive is one of the most influential games you've probably never played. The role-playing game originally debuted back in 1994, but it never left Japan. Nearly 3 decades later, and it finally reached our western shores. This game is a debut for the director of titles like Parasite Eve and Chrono Trigger. This remake is done in the style of more recent Square titles, most notably Octopath Traveler or Trinity Trigger. You're given 7 chapters of history to choose from, each with their own protagonists that you can play in any order. These chapters range from prehistoric times to the far future, and whilst they seem completely unrelated initially, it wraps around towards the end to provide a satisfying conclusion. Some chapters differ so much from each other, and I think that's what makes it so fun. Live Alive has a very flexible battle system where you move characters around a big grid, and the developers made use of that with plenty of unique scenarios. There are mech battles, stealth missions, and moments where you can read minds or sniff out a catch whilst hunting. Each chapter has different combat styles and a way to battle, so it's a great time all round. The chapters are rather short, and you can revisit each one, making nothing truly missable, which is what we love to see. This game is great, and these are the type of remakes that I like to see. Ones that truly bring a game back to life, and to a new audience like myself. Right, the last one is probably the toughest platinum on this list. It requires 3 playthroughs with highly missable content that I definitely recommend you use a guide for, especially if you want this to be as fast as possible. Now with the announcement of Star Ocean 2's remake later this year, I really wanted to highlight the game that started it all. This game is an action RPG, and despite originally being released in 1996, it feels way ahead of its time, and is one of the best games and series I've ever played. The characters are fantastic, and they have so many unique and interesting interactions, and what's even more amazing is how many of the characters are optional, yet still have enough lines of dialogue with each other that they never even feel half-baked. In addition, the plot is excellent. It's a crazy space epic featuring fluid combat for its time and nice sprite work, which has been enhanced with this definitive version. It tackles themes of interdimensional politics and the laws of space, an overall concept and its presentation which is super appealing to me. Thankfully the battle trophies hadn't been released at this point, so this is one Star Ocean game I can say is actually reasonable to do. The reason for multiple playthroughs are some characters can only be unlocked by not unlocking other characters. It's always been this way as far as I'm aware with Star Ocean, at least in the games that I've played. This game is well worth playing for sure, even if you don't fancy a platinum, so go check this bad boy out. So that's it from me today guys, thanks again for all the support lately. I'm now trying to hit 2k subs, so go click all those buttons. I appreciate you as always, take care, Gaspard out.